Formula One returns to Silverstone, one of my favorite tracks to watch cars go quick around, especially the maggots and baguettes corners. Sprint weekend, one practice session, which means some drivers won't get enough time to set up their cars properly. Will Red Bull's upgrades continue to get better? Will Mercedes make another step forward? Or will Ferrari struggle massively given the track layout at Silverstone? Let me take you through the data review for the 2026 British Grand Prix. I'm MJ and welcome to MJF1. Drivers put their heads down, getting on with practice to get ready for sprint qualifying later. Combining Lewis Hamilton with the Silverstone track is always dangerous. He is so good here, and of course he topped the practice times. For this weekend, looking at the best sectors from the one practice, the Ferraris should be up there with the Mercedes. But remember, this doesn't always translate into real qualifying pace. But Lewis Hamilton looks really good ahead of Kimi Antonelli. And looking at George Russell, who was leading Max in P5, this proves that the Red Bull is probably the third fastest car at this stage of the season. Sprint qualifying. I know it's the mandate to use medium tires for SQ1 and SQ2, but my god, these cars look so slow on these tires. But anyways, in SQ2, the Racing Bulls looked really good again this weekend. I think Liam Lawson is performing really well and he's getting the proper chance to develop as an F1 driver without the pressures of the main Red Bull team. Also noticed that Pierre Gasly keeps missing out on the top 10 by just under a tenth of a second. He is definitely outdriving that car, and I know they used to be in a better shape at the beginning of the season compared to where they are now. But to close off the sprint, Kimi Antonelli was setting the sector times on fire as he took provisional pole in the last few seconds. But Sir Hamilton is a different kind of animal. He took that pole from Kimi by just 0.011 seconds. How did he do that? Sprint start, Lewis starting on pole and Kimi behind. They both started really well. Kimi slightly better, but it wasn't enough to secure the inside line, so Lewis led into turn 1. The McLarens also started super well compared to Max and Charles from the second row. Big ups to Lando here. He really cooked with that start. Obviously, he used a lot of energy for this performance on that first lap, but by lap 2, he still had enough to yo-yo with Russell for P3 and ended up keeping that position. He threw Russell right into the batteries of Max and Piastri. These guys switched positions so many times, and to be honest, it was entertaining to watch. But then I thought to myself, this is not the Formula One we know. Nothing about this felt natural. In front, Kimi was still sizing up Lewis in the lead, studying their strategy, calculating where he can take advantage, and he didn't want to wait long. He began to engage Hamilton for an overtake on lap 8. The Mercedes is definitely quicker, but Kimi needed to find his way around a fantastic and ruthless driver, especially on this track. Kimi has really stepped up on his overtakes since the last few races, as he took the lead from Lewis with unbelievable speed. There was nothing Lewis could have done to defend himself against that. Max, Russell and Leclerc were battling behind and cushioning P3 for Lando, as they were literally trading megajoules for P4, which ended up going to Russell. followed by Leclerc, and Max only good enough for P6. And given how stupid fast the Mercedes kid is, Kimi summed up the sprint nicely to take the win at Silverstone. Race qualifying. I am really happy the Racing Bulls are keeping up with the performance as they made it through to Q3 again. The Ferraris were also doing really good despite our fears with this track's layout. They are clearly the second fastest car behind that Mercedes, or Kimi rather. They secured P2 and P3 behind the young driver, clearly taking advantage of George's poor performance in that Mercedes. Max and the McLarens were doing terribly out there. It's hard to believe that these were the championship contenders of last year. And guess what? Max Verstappen has been beaten by a teammate in a head-to-head qualifying on pure pace at Silverstone. More on that in a few seconds. Please subscribe to the channel if you like this content. It really does help the channel out. Driver potentials show that Kimi had a lot more in his bag to widen the gap. And interestingly, Lewis also could have qualified ahead of Leclerc, but he lost that time somewhere. Isaac Hedger did really well despite out-qualifying Max, who wasn't even the biggest loser in qualifying. It was actually Lewis Hamilton, but this just shows how Max qualified terribly in this session. Grand Prix race start. The Ferraris superstars were back once again, as Charles and Lewis swallowed poor Kimi from the lead. By lap 8, Lewis had not really gotten away from Kimi, who was within a second behind. On lap 11, Kimi took P2 from Hamilton. Meanwhile, Max was getting closer to George Russell, who was camping in P4, also continuing his terrible form against his younger teammate. Max's race pace looked much better than in the sprint at this stage. When Max finally had enough to take the Mercedes on lap 17, obviously George wasn't going to make this very easy. But before they could show us who has a nicer battery, Red Bull actually called Max to pit. They were ready to pull the trigger first, and I think he just wanted to fight George here for the fun of it. Kimi's usual lightning pace didn't seem like it was enough against Leclerc at this stage, but there was still enough time to make up for that race start. And he got his chance on lap 26 when Leclerc pitted. It was really down to how Mercedes managed the race from here to give Kimi a good chance to fight Leclerc later. Lewis and George had also caught up to Max by lap 29, and they were definitely going to send him back to P6 since he had pitted earlier for the current stint. Lewis was just the quicker car between them. Also, with Russell's engineer reporting a puncture on their car and asking for him to pit on lap 35. Russell still had some pace regardless, and he felt he also needed to fight Max just seconds before he dived into the pits. I think this was just pettiness for what Max did earlier in the first stint. But faster Lewis was set free to take position from Max without managing Russell in between. While in the lead, Kimi pitted and there was 5 seconds between himself and Leclerc for the win. With 14 laps to go, if there's anyone that can do it, it's Kimi. Unless if he breaks his car when he rode the curb and a piece of his wheel shield got broken and completely destroyed his car's aero, which Mercedes did not notice quickly to remedy, causing Kimi to pit twice to resolve the real issue. My boy wanted to hang on to get 1 point in P10. Very commendable that he didn't succumb to disappointment and give up. This really broke my heart. Just when I thought that was the last of the dramas at this race, with 4 laps left, Max spun into the gravel while in P3 on lap 48, with an issue similar to what happened in Austria qualifying, where the rear wing didn't close completely. He really needs to get rid of that number 3. What terrible luck he has this season. The safety car got called out, which was bad news for Kimi, because he had picked up a penalty for track limits, and Ferrari decided to pit Lewis from P2 with just 3 laps remaining. I get the hope, but this was a huge gamble. Surely Lewis could have defended from Russell for 1 lap. Russell stayed out obviously and inherited P2, and underwhelmingly, that's not a word, the race ended under the safety car and we didn't get to see a 1 lap shootout. And there was actually enough time for the safety car to end with 1 lap remaining. Leclerc closed the race with a win from Russell, followed by Hamilton in P3. Disappointing end to the race at one of my favorite tracks, but definitely a fantastic result for Leclerc and Ferrari as a team. Could have been better, but they were unlucky with the safety car. Race control definitely robbed us there, just like they robbed Lewis all those years ago. It could have been better, but it's an ending we're gonna have to live with. And for my rating for the Silverstone race, I'll give it a 6 out of 10, mainly for how it ended. Let me know what you think of the Battery Championship. Do you enjoy the pass and repass games? Please subscribe to the channel and I'll catch you in the next one.